You're listening to Happy Hour Hustle from the creative geniuses here at 834. We're funny, informative, and we swear. We talk all things marketing, communication, small business, plus we offer up hot takes on our industry and whatever else we feel like talking about. So, grab your drink of choice. It's always 5 o'clock at 834. And crank it up. Hey there, hustlers. On today's podcast, we want to talk about something that is very near and dear to us here at 834, and that is inclusion. And nobody could talk about this topic better than Jen VanSkiver, the Chief Growth Officer at Special Olympics Michigan. Kim and I sat down with her to talk about her incredible daughter, inclusivity in hiring, and the amazing game-changing work that they're doing at Special Olympics Michigan. And admittedly, our conversation ran long. So we're going to give it to you in two parts. Here's part one. We're here with Jen VanSkiver of Special Olympics Michigan. We're very excited to have you. Obviously, we're all friends though. You know.
We are.
So
thank you for having
we're just here kind of to chat.
It's happy hour hustle.
It's happy hour hustle. We're drinking wine, Snoop wine. There's a good Snoop story. If you see Jen, ask her about it.
Please do. Please do.
But
it doesn't even have anything to do with pot.
It totally doesn't.
No.
It's so much more
Which is
innocent
kind of
than
sad.
that.
But
it is.
A big reason we want to talk about this is because we recently just did some work with Special Olympics Michigan and their new Unified Sports and Inclusion Center, which is a really exciting new building that they've opened, largest inclusive sports facility in the world. Mm-hmm. It is helping change the game in inclusivity in tech and employment and all these different things. We're really excited to have been involved with it. And Jen, we just want to kind of talk about what we've talked about a lot between us, inclusivity in hiring and employment, the economic impact, the personal impact, all of that.
I'd like to set it up because as a small business owner, hiring in itself is, well, just it's hard. It's just hard running a business. And then specifically the hiring, no, that's fine. The hiring and the retention, and there's this entire, what have you called it? There's this entire ignored.
Yes.
Not even you've given it a better word than that. Not hidden, but ignored talent base.
Not taken seriously.
Yes. And I want to talk about that a little bit because CJ is one of my inspirations, and CJ is your daughter. CJ is one of my inspirations because, and I've told you this before, so her job, tell everybody what her job is.
She's a nurse tech at Corwell Health over at Blodgett.
Yeah. If anyone has been in, Corwell Health, whatever, it used to be Spectrum. I shall always call it Spectrum, so whatever, anyone. But if anyone has ever been in the facility downtown, much less even the one in East Grand Rapids, because neither one of them I can navigate. And I bring this up a lot because to me this just reiterates a point. What are there 14 different elevator banks in that hospital, and all of them go to a different place. Yes. And I remember you telling me when CJ started there, and she knows the entire lay of that hospital. And a big part of when she started that, because was she considered a nurse tech when she first started?
No, she was in patient transport.
Yes.
Which is absolutely, you need to map the building.
Oh yeah,
right?
And she 100% mapped it.
She did.
Mapped it.
Yep.
Blows my mind.
Yep.
Try not to swear so more people can listen. We don't have to
find
put
a dishwasher, but
yeah.
she can certainly get
well,
you
know what? That's most men. So thank you, CJ. You shouldn't have to find a dishwasher. But my point is she's considered, what do you call it, a hidden disability? Yeah, talk through that a little bit.
Yeah, so, what a hidden disability is, maybe when a person walks in a room and you just we quickly size people up. We do that. That's part of human nature, going back to
being a dick.
The dawn of time. Mm-hmm. Yep, we size people up because we're a tribal species.
Yes.
And anything that is unknown or foreign to us, we are immediately tap into the fear. Of the unknown because we're looking to protect ourselves. And so we have this incredible ability, even through all the education and wisdom and frontal lobe activation, we still size people up.
Yes.
And when someone walks in a room or let's say somebody wheels into a room in a wheelchair, or someone enters a room and they have the typical characteristics of a Down syndrome individual.
Yeah.
That's a very visible, or someone's wearing a cochlear implant.
Yeah.
And their head is shaved and you can see it attached to their skull.
Right.
that's a very visible disability. And immediately what your brain does is it does activate the frontal lobe, and you approach maybe with a little more caution, a little more sensitivity. When somebody has a hidden disability, which CJ typically falls into that category, she has a cognitive processing disability. So when you look at her, you don't see anything.
Yeah.
But when she starts to speak, maybe some of her gesticulations, over time, you kind of pick up on the fact that that probably her processing speed is a little different. And her speech has a little bit of a different pattern to it, and in some cases can be a little harder to understand. So that causes a dissonance and a disconnect with people. So they're looking at her, but then they're experiencing her, and those two things don't necessarily
compute.
Right.
Yeah.
And so sometimes if there's a big gap between seeing her and sizing her up and experiencing her, so you have preconceived notions, and then all of a sudden, a little bit later, you experience her, you may have expected something else.
Right.
And then maybe what you're experiencing is far different than what you may have expected. And so the challenge then is, the challenge for her always is she has to work hard to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
Society
Isn't that kind of bullshit that she has to be the one that puts in the work?
It is.
God, that pisses me off.
Swear.
Yeah, I know. Well, that was worth the swear.
It was worth
But I mean, it is. It's like we put it on the individual.
We put it on the individual.
To educate?
Like we put it on the woman.
Yes.
Like we put it on the person who doesn't English isn't first language.
Yes.
Put it on we always put it on a marginalized group to level
true.
up, because society is built for those who have privilege.
Yep.
And those who have privilege, again, back to kind of just the primordial instinct, surround themselves with the same ilk.
Yep.
And so society wasn't built for people like my daughter, or people who we described earlier who have a very visible disability. It wasn't built for any of us.
Right.
And so what she is constantly having to do, whether it's emotionally or communication-wise or job skill-wise or just any general expectation, is adapt herself, or she has to have a nice set of balls on her to be able to say, I need accommodations. But even saying that, imagine having to say those words, which basically, I need accommodations. I need 3 words.
Yeah.
But the paragraph context around that is, you didn't ever expect me to be here.
Yep.
So now that I'm here, surprising, challenging, disrupting this environment that you never expected me to be in, I need you now to accommodate that to fit me.
Right.
So I don't belong is the equal sign. So it's equal sign, I don't belong.
Yeah.
So, and we put it on her to say it.
Yeah.
So, but what's the opposite? The opposite is that she leads with, hi, I'm CJ, I have a cognitive impairment. And she makes that her entire identity.
Yeah.
So, there's really no clear win here. Really, the win is much more, it's much broader than that. It needs to be incumbent upon all of us to enter into a situation with curiosity.
Yeah.
Right? And not labeling, let the moment and the situation dictate your expectations.
Yeah.
Well, I think even going back to before that, the fact is like she has a lot to give. And what we're not doing is recognizing that. And so when you're looking at that from like an employer aspect or from like a company, like it's recognizing that like individuals like CJ are quite frankly what a lot of us have been looking for. And yet we're completely disregarding an entire, like demographic. So I think, and it solves like a huge issue, quite frankly, like, because even when she started out in the program.
Right. Which was called Project Search.
Yep.
It is a 501c3 international nonprofit that was actually started in a hospital setting by a nurse who recognized that there were a number of jobs that had constant attrition, which was extremely costly and time consuming. And she felt like some of these jobs could be broken down into pretty routine, basic understanding. And so she wanted to tap into a non-traditional labor market.
Right.
And took it upon herself to kind of try it before you buy it. And then they bought it. And then they incorporated 501c3. And now it's in hospitals around the world. It's also translated into banks, hotels, and everything.
Right.
That program locally here is supported by the Kent Intermediate School District. And it is run in places like Fifth Third Bank and Corewell Health are probably the two major employers. Please. Sorry.
No, so I was just going to say, though, the fact is that, like, you know, CJ moved into a job that there, you know, there was a lot of turnover in. And it was, you know, because from what I remember you telling me is, like, when she, you know, like, it's a certain time frame or whatever. Like, and what happened was she was so good at it. See, I bleep myself out. She was so good at it that they were like, please stay. Please stay. And she did. And how long has it been now?
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yep. So she went into
I
this
feel like
program.
I remember it. God, I feel
we're aging at light speed.
Yeah. No one else
and
is.
she is achieving at light speed.
Yeah.
So I feel like at least we're tracking.
Yeah, I guess.
But at any rate, yeah, she did. She got into the Project Search program. It is a competitive program, so you have to have a little bit of work experience to get in there. CJ had that through her kind of work study program in high school that they hooked her up with. So we just slid her right in there. And what the program is a 1-year intensive internship. So you're unpaid. It's all instruction, and you meet on site at the employer. So in this case, she was at Corewell Health, which is Butterworth downtown, and they have a classroom, literal classroom set up there. And in the morning, what they do is they go through you know, kind of life skills, but they also go work through workforce development and readiness. So let's say how do you write a resume? Right. Let's do it. How are you coachable? So if your supervisor notices something that they'd like you to do a little bit differently, how will you receive that information? Yeah. What if a colleague says something that's upsetting to you? What about conflict resolution? How do you manage that? Yeah. How do you advocate for yourself? If you find yourself in a situation where you think something's unfair, don't just be grateful for the job. Here's how you advocate for yourself. And then obviously the requisite skill for whatever position you're in. So in this 1-year internship, they set it up with 3 10-week rotations. And they decide which departments you're going to be in based on this bifurcated analysis. So they go in and they say, what do you want? What do you love? And then they also run you through some algorithm which decides, you know, basically these are your key skills, this is where you're great. And then they kind of marry those two. Then they try to map that onto the different departments that participate. In our case, at the hospital, Corewell is a massive supporter. An outstanding supporter nationally. Which we're very lucky to have here in our community. And so they have multiple departments that participate, everything from gift shops and facilities and working in the cafe or dietary to laundry to client-facing, bedside positions like CJ has. Or working with technology like, you know, rad techs, radiology, and things like that. So there's a wide variety of options. So they really have to take that analysis seriously to make sure that you get the best placement. Because you only have a year and you only have 3 choices. So she went through, she was in her second rotation. She had done patient transport first. She had moved into the PACU, so post-acute care unit. So that means when you're coming out of surgery, you kind of go into that little, like, no man's land for a little bit before you go back to the floor. And so that's taking people
I like
out
that
of
we
surgery.
said, like we have any idea what that means. I don't. But I mean, like, PACU. Yes. Cool. Anyway, yes.
That's right. That's
Sounds
right.
familiar.
I've got it.
Thanks,
Meredith Gray
Meredith
talked
Gray,
about it one
thank
time.
So it is. It's really highfalutin. So CJ worked in there, and actually, just a quick shout out to my daughter. She was not only the youngest person to get accepted into this program. We didn't know that most individuals are older before they get accepted into this program. She was barely 18, and we slid her in there because I didn't know. And I just put her ass in this program.
Aren't you glad you didn't know?
Yeah.
Because don't you feel like that would have came along with, like, I don't know, all the things?
Nerves.
And we
but the
can
BS,
stress,
like the limitations.
But let's put a pin in that and come back to it later. Because many of the barriers of our people getting into the workforce are parents. Because of the we know best. We're working from a place of fear and concern and protection. So we're going to just like
we'll come back to that.
Shove it over here to the right, and we'll come back. So back to CJ, youngest person in the program. Halfway through it, she's in the PACU now, and a position becomes open.
Yeah.
And it is a second shift position, which means it starts in the afternoon, it goes until late in the evening. And the person who's running the program says, CJ, I think you should apply for it. So we're like, okay. I'm just like, okay. So they take her through it. She had to interview for it with a panel, not one-on-one. A panel of people interviewed her. It was extremely intimidating.
Yeah.
She did it, did well, got the offer, took the job prior to finishing the internship.
Wow.
So she's one of only, I thought at the time, like a handful of people who had done that.
Yeah.
And she's the only person to have been hired into the PACU Meredith Gray area ever
Like
in the organization's then 10-year history.
Yeah.
So she broke a lot of barriers because I didn't know, and I have her whole life shoved her into everything so we can find her place in community. We just got to try it all.
Yeah.
So CJ's doing this. It's been 5 years now. And she went from patient transport in the PACU, so basically taking patients to and from surgery, and a little bit of light inventory, and packing the carts and whatever the hell else they do in there. And then she actually was able to get some additional skills training and was brought up to a nurse tech. So what a nurse tech is, for anybody who needs to know, I mean, she puts in
catheters. I'm sorry, I just needed to I needed to.
Let me also say that in men and women.
Yes.
I want let's do this little fun quiz for the audience. Which is easier to put in?
Oh, it can't be. It's got to be women. Like it has
women
to be.
Women are easier.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, what's your vote, Maddie?
I don't know.
Do you agree?
I don't know. Like I feel like
there's
a
tiny hole for a male.
But it's
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I bet they're total babies about it too.
That's not giving anything away about the answer. The answer to that is a hard yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, I should not have introduced that adjective.
No, not as a hard.
Because that's not what we want in that.
No.
It's no longer okay for the audience.
Wow.
I think we just made it more interesting.
I think we did. But so I'll skippity doot out of the answer.
Yeah.
The answer is men are easier.
Really? Well, I guess it's like.
Well, it turns out there's a lot less going on.
Yeah, well,
so far easier to do.
Yeah.
And so, which CJ, I mean, the amount of education.
That you've gotten.
Whether we wanted it or not.
Yeah, right. I've been saying this for a long time. A, she needs her own podcast. B, she needs her own blog. Yeah. Actually, I really think she needs her own reality TV.
She probably does.
Yeah.
Let's start with an agent. Is that 834?
Yeah, I really think it is. I have been trying for years. In case you didn't know, this is actually this is like the hype podcast for CJ. Because I am so blown away from her. Because I've known you. We're going wherever this podcast takes us, it takes us. We can go into other things later. Who cares? But I have been blown away by her for fucking years. Because I've known you for a long time. And I know as like you as a parent, worry. And the more I see her in action, like, I'm just like, I mean, you've said it. Like, people have underestimated her entire life. Mm-hmm. You know?
Maybe this is a time to take the thing we put over to the right and
scoot it back in.
Yeah.
Skippity doo-dah in, if you will.
Let's just skippity doo-dah that right there. So, as we look at the skippity doo-dah, and we have had a lot of offline conversations about this, and it's soul-bearing shit.
Yeah. God, I think it's so important for people to know, though. Like,
it really is. I about weekly.
Yeah.
I had 2 people reach out to me today, from different. So the gal who is kind enough to clean our house, which is a nightmare itself.
Oh, calm down. It's
but
not
she
that
does
bad.
Well, I don't have 11 dogs.
No, it's 8, but fine, fuck you.
Right.
So,
okay. Yep. Also, has another lady who she also works with, and they are a family of some affluence, and they have a loved one, a child who is approaching later teen years, and they've really kept this individual sheltered for quite a while.
Yeah.
And now they're finding, as the teen years dwindle down and the K-12 system peters out, that the circle is small.
Yeah.
And they don't know what to do. And they thought it was about financial independence.
Yep.
And it's about so much more.
Yep.
So they gave this individual, this child, financial independence, and it will always be there. It will always be well invested. But who will engineer the circle of friends? Who will engineer the meaningful contributions to the community?
Right.
Who will do that? And so I'm going to be meeting over at Brody's.
Yeah.
Coffee house, amazing employment opportunity for individuals with intellectual disabilities, 5 locations across West Michigan. We can get to another podcast on that.
Boom. Commercial.
But I do all my meetings at Brody's because what I want parents to see is
that.
I want them to look at one of the employees there and I want them to see their child. I want them to see their child interacting with customers. I want to see their child making people smile and bringing joy.
Right.
I want them to see in the face of these individuals their child achieving out in public, out in front, where everybody can see.
And for so many adults, I mean, once you reach a certain age, your employment is most of your life. It's your community.
Yeah.
Until you move to the next, like it becomes your community and your friends, and being limited early on in that.
Exactly.
Only stunts that ability to grow your community.
It really does. I mean, we go from school to work. I mean, that's where we spend the majority of our time. But that next step, that next paver stone, is not guaranteed for our people.
Yeah.
So with us, with me, back to the central point, and we'll try to put a bow on it as best I can.
You can
because it's an ongoing. I'm not capable.
The bow's gonna happen in 15 minutes, folks. We're gonna run out of tape.
You say.
Thank you. I'm a verbal expresser.
Yeah.
I believe they call that battery life.
Yes. Zippity doo dah.
Yeah, let's zippity doo dah.
Yeah.
Right to
Zippity. Sorry. Anyway, moving on.
It has been a really, really long road for me, and you have known me a lot. You've known me in a lot of iterations of my life. In like the early years, where I was just like, I'm a mom. Oh my God. And then I'm a mom. Plus, I have a child that's not meeting milestones, and I'm not sure how to manage that. We have a circle of friends that's like 500 million people. I now have 6 people in my life, and you have been gracious enough to continue to come and go and come and go, because you care about me and you're intentional about it. Not everybody is. My circle got small too, I guess is the fairest way to say it. And then I've gone through iterations in my career where I buried myself in it. I actually took a job that was an hour out of town, and I made a lot of excuses about why I did that. But I think a lot of the reasons why I did that was because I needed distance from things I couldn't control. And I needed to be in a job that I could. Because otherwise I just felt totally lost. So, and then into this current stage, which is, finding my place in the community.
God, that's been cool to see.
Yeah, thank you. It's been cool to live. And so now I find myself in a position where I can, and I couldn't have had it at any other point in my life. And I'm also, I'm in the reckoning right now of being okay and not being super pissed at myself for not seeing all these road signs earlier and getting off.
Yeah, but I also don't think you would have seen
earlier.
It. You wouldn't have.
I couldn't have.
No.
I couldn't have seen it.
No way.
I needed the snowball effect. I needed to accumulate all of these things.
Right.
I had an employer once who told me you can't connect dots until you collect them. And I have collected enough dots now that I can make more meaningful connections than I could have at any other point in my life. And it's all coming together. And the most important thing to me now will always be sharing what I know. Sharing who I know, sharing how we got here. And that's part and parcel of why you've invited me here and why I'm so grateful to be here.
That's it for part 1 of our conversation with Jen VanSkiver. As you can see, we had a lot to talk about with her. We have more information about Special Olympics Michigan in the caption to this episode, but we will have part 2 of our conversation coming up next time on Happy Hour Hustle. Until then, see you in the download.